bases dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down Here. It's a Friday. It is May 8th, and we've got stuff to talk about. And John's doing some weird dance.
Well, you said
an interpretive dance.
Oh, no. You mentioned, well, I'm always in search of the twos and fours, so you don't want me doing any kind of interpretive dance. But no, you mentioned Friday, and so that really silly song popped into my head.
Why? Why would it do that? Why?
Friday.
Why? No, stop. Jeez, what are you doing?
Because it's Friday.
I am having a very bad day.
Already?
Yes, because you're singing.
I'm
Rebecca
in no
Black.
mood.
You're not in the mood?
No. Don't sing Rebecca Black.
Oh, I'm glad you remembered who that was because
if you're going to start singing her song, you need to show her at least a little bit of respect. You stole her song.
Didn't remember who it was. You didn't want. No, that's if I do it badly. Does that mean that I'm stealing it?
Yeah, you're stealing it. I mean, you're not using it properly, but you're stealing it. Yes.
All right. Because I figure if you're doing it incorrectly, then it doesn't matter if it's thievery or not. It's like you go to the bank and then you try to rob the bank and you end up stealing the candy instead of the money.
No, that's just you're incompetent. And you should probably send in a resume to the SPFL.
So good. You too can be chief executive if you're stealing the wrong things at a bank.
No, the better description would be if you went to the grocery store and stole a steak, but you overcooked it. You still stole the steak.
Okay.
You just didn't handle it correctly. So you stole the song, you just butchered it.
Okay, but I mean, if I didn't even get it out of the store, is what I mean.
No, you got it out of the store. You sang it publicly. It was bad. It was
all right.
scary.
Okay. Just checking.
There's no redeeming quality to it. None.
Checking on protocol. All right. By the way, before we go into the show proper, for those watching on Twitch, twitch.tv/soccerdownhere, you are sporting something, and I'm about to flash the same.
Don't flash anything, John. Watch your language. Jeez. I am rocking the Footy Mob jersey that our friends at Footy Mob, Curtis and the crew, sent to us. John has his that he's going to hold up over his face. We might ask him to do that for the whole show.
Exactly.
Maybe the video wouldn't drop that way.
Exactly.
Awesome shirt. You guys have seen these all around. They did two different versions of it. I like the red and black one. I'm a little partial to red and black myself.
Shocker.
So that was the one that I picked. And thanks so much, Curtis, and everybody at Footy Mob. We appreciate it.
And also the scarves. Let folks know about that because folks are hitting us up in our DMs about the protective devices that we are putting out there, especially with our friends from Die Hard.
Those are called masks, John.
Masks.
You can wrap a scarf around your face if you want, and that actually is something that I have done when I did not have a mask yet. But I have masks, and I'm looking forward to getting the Soccer Down Here mask. We are selling them quite briskly, so if you want to get your mask in this first round, because it looks like there might be a second round, shoot us a message. We'll get you taken care of. They're $20, including your shipping. So $20 flat. You get a mask. We donate one on your behalf to Soccer in the Streets. We are shooting for 50 masks to be donated to Soccer in the Streets. That's going to get one team and some change taken care of completely. Probably two teams, actually. Fully taken care of with masks so we can all make sure that we're looking out for the people around us. And that's a very important thing right now. Allison Cupertino watching on Twitch. Hello, Allie. How are you?
Morning.
We are taking your answers to the Friday Flashback question, whether you're on Twitch, whether you're on Twitter, whether you're listening and not on any of those and you want to send us a message on Facebook or send us an email, soccerdownhere@gmail.com. Who was your first favorite player? Your first player that you considered your favorite, whether it's just somebody you saw in the first game you saw, like a player you used in the FIFA video games, whether it's the first player that you kind of really started to like on your favorite team. Your first favorite player. That's what we're asking today. That's the Friday Flashback question.
All right. I have mine. When are we divulging ours?
Not yet.
Okay. All right. Keep talking for about 30 seconds. I'm going to disappear from our screen on the Twitch side of things, but I'm going to still be plugged into my microphone. The the desktop decided that it wanted to dislodge itself, so I have to reboot.
So, see, this is part of the entertainment, doing a show with John on a daily basis. Now I actually get to see when things all fall apart, and he has to duck under desks and plug things in and get disconnected, as you can tell, because it's John. Welcome to the world of John and Skype and soccer down here. We're going to need to get John an engineer when we're able to get back to normal here. Yeah. Anyway, if you did not see the action this morning, the K-League kicked off. Korean League Soccer played behind closed doors with all the safety protocols in place. I caught the last 15 minutes, turned it on, immediate red card. Always good. Good welcome back right there. You had a 41-year-old goal scorer that ended up being the deciding goal. Little things I noticed, and again, I caught it about 15 minutes left. The commentator was in Australia. He was calling it remotely, and you had some technical difficulties there, as we're still having technical difficulties. Yes. Sorry about that, folks. So he's calling it remotely. That's a little difficult. He handled it as well as he could, and I think he did a really good job kind of capturing the emotion of the moment with the goal. You saw masks for the most part for bench personnel, for people on the side. Don't think substitutes were wearing masks. You did see a somewhat socially distanced celebration, but it was a celebration. I think that's an important thing. We need to see celebrations. They're an important part of the game, and if they have to be socially distanced, I'm expecting creativity out of the players to find a way to do this. I'm trying to think of other things I noticed. A trainer came on to check a player, and he was wearing gloves, obviously. He's wearing a mask, obviously. No big surprise there. Yeah, I mean, it was weird because you didn't have fans, and you were dealing with that element of it. But it still felt like a league match. And I think there's little things we can all figure out as we go as to what can make the presentation better, how everything can be even better. But it's a step in the right direction. It's just good to have soccer, and it's good to have live action. I missed it. John's still trying to find it, obviously, as we're trying to find John, because I don't know what he managed to do with his technological issues. I think we might actually have John coming back now in just a second. Hold tight on that. We've got a lot of news to get into from around the world, from all around different leagues. John is finally back with us. Just go ahead and tell everybody what you did, because I have no idea.
All right, so here's the deal from this morning. At least it happened in the A blog. All right, dealing with a phone and a laptop and a desktop. So,
wait a minute. So you're trying to make 3 different things, function for you to do a show.
Yes, because of all the different.
Notice this? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
Pretty close.
Yeah. So what happened with your 3 different devices, John?
All right, so it's the the desktop that lost its internet connection.
Why did it lose its internet connection?
I don't know. It's moody. It does this. My cable operator does. Basically, yes. So occasionally the desktop loses its connection to our Wi-Fi system. And I have my desktop, I thought, attached to a different network.
How many networks do you have, John?
Entirely too many, apparently.
No,
I thought I at least two.
No. I don't think you understand what networks are, but anyway, go ahead.
Okay. So when I try to reboot the desktop, it blew everything out.
It blew everything out. What is you did a silly hand motion and rebooting a desktop blew everything out?
Yes.
What does that mean?
It disconnected both the laptop and the desktop when I thought that they were attached to two separate Wi-Fi networks.
There's not two separate Wi-Fi networks.
Absolutely pathetic.
What are you doing over there, man?
Hey, I thought that it was two separate things where we have one tied to our cable operator and one tied to something entirely different. I guess I was wrong.
I don't know. I mean, maybe you have mythical other things that Wi-Fi networks are tied to. That doesn't make any sense.
Who are we discussing here?
Well, anyway, maybe you'll figure it out.
No.
By the time we get to our 10th anniversary of doing soccer down here.
Have
you been able to pull up devices of news-oriented things?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So what's new in the world, John?
All right. Well, let's start overseas because when I saw this story, I basically got something under my proverbial craw. Mm-hmm. I was slightly chapped.
I know that feeling.
When I read this story. Okay. Now, once again, take this from its source for its own value. Okay. It's from the Sun newspaper. Top flight rivals of Liverpool are concerned.
Okay. Top flight rivals of Liverpool are concerned with
the notion that once Liverpool clinches the Premier League title, all Liverpool is going to do for the remainder of the season is play the kids.
Yeah, that's what happens. Welcome to soccer. It's a sport we've been playing for a long, long time, and we've seen this play out many, many times. I'd like to give this message to everybody.
Have you ever seen anybody play the game called soccer?
Obviously, the other top teams around Liverpool in the table have not. Go ahead. Go.
Clubs that have already played Liverpool twice this term. Once again, this is from our friends at The Sun. Martin Lipton is the author of the piece. Fear that they will suffer if Klopp opts to protect his stars once the Prem crown is theirs. The Kop need just 6 points to guarantee their first title since 1990. One club executive told Sunsport, "We saw what Liverpool did in the Cups, so why wouldn't they do the same once they've won the league? Jurgen Klopp could just tell his first team to go away for their own safety, which would be understandable."
All right, hold on. I'm going to stop it right there because let's go back to what happened in the Cups. I can't believe I'm defending Liverpool. Nathan Pearce would be ecstatic this morning. When they, in the League Cup, this is what Liverpool did in the Cup. See, this is what they did, so this is what they're going to do. They were playing in the Club World Cup halfway across the world, so you had to field a different team because they weren't going to reschedule that game. So you didn't really have a choice. Good try, fail. Second one. You had a conflict, didn't you, of something in the FA Cup as well? Mm-hmm. Wasn't there some? Oh no, it was the winter break. It was the winter break that had been agreed upon.
Klopp was on an island watching on his laptop or something.
No, because he wasn't going to come. He said we said we're having a winter break. Why are we playing a game? We're not playing a game. We're taking our winter break. Yeah. So no. Fail number 2, you are trying to complain about something that has been going on from day one in this game. You clinch the league. You're not going to take the rest of the league seriously. It ain't rocket science. No. The top teams in England around Liverpool who are crying like this, the bottom teams who are becoming the sabotage club, are going to ruin the sport for the rest of the clubs in the country. You're all going to blow it for everybody because you're being selfish. This is the time not to be selfish. That's idiotic, and I want names on record so we can call them morons for saying these things Don't be a little guy who's going to say, well, I'm not going to say this, but, this is what we're thinking. Yeah. This is all off the record. Yeah, you can say it, but don't put my name to it. No, put your name to it. Put your name to it. What would have happened if you didn't have a break for a worldwide pandemic? The exact same thing. The exact same thing. You would be playing the kids. You would be giving guys some opportunity to get minutes to make decisions on their contracts, decisions on if you're going to loan them out next year, all kinds of important things that you get the right to do when you dominate the league and clinch it with weeks to spare. Stop crying, don't suck so much, and stop pointing fingers and using incorrect information. You're welcome, Nathan Pugh.
Continuing the same executive, he says, but if they put out a shadow side in matches, they would have won, and those points become crucial. It warps the league.
That's nonsense. That's absolute crap. That is absolute crap. You play the league out, and when you clinch it, you clinch it. You can do what you want. You can't do this nonsense, and you can't do it during a freaking global pandemic. The league stopped because of a virus. If Liverpool had won the league before now, they would have done the same thing. This is an idiotic complaint, and if you had actually been a challenge to Liverpool during the season, then maybe they would have had to field a full-choice team in their final matches. You didn't, so stop crying. I don't care what it means for other games in the league. It would have been the same thing if this hadn't happened. It would have been the same thing 5 years ago. It would have been the same thing 10 years ago. It would have been the same thing 50 years ago. Stop. This is the idiocy that is going to ruin this sport in England. Because you look at the other countries in the world that are dealing with this. MLS isn't having this kind of nonsense. Argentina isn't having this kind of nonsense, and they have nonsense. They know nonsense very well. They're not having this kind of nonsense. France, not having this nonsense. Germany, not having this nonsense. They actually figured out maybe they should try to work together for the good of the game. Crazy. Wild thoughts. Spain, Italy, they're not having this kind of nonsense. England is going to tear itself apart because clubs are incredibly selfish, and they're setting an awful example for people. You're right, Gwen. I agree.
The final quote attached to this individual was, how can that be sporting integrity?
The sporting integrity was, let's see. Man, I don't have the quote. The sporting integrity could be defined by a new parable, a new psalm, if you will. Klopp 3:16 means I just whooped your ass. That's the sporting integrity. The sporting integrity was Liverpool whooped everybody's ass and won the league and then gets to do what they want. If they want to play 14-year-olds in league matches after that, well, sorry, you should have given them more of a challenge. Sporting integrity. Get out of here with that nonsense. This is the problem. You're ruining the game. By doing this nonsense, you're going to hold things up even longer. And you're trying to either get to this point where you try to declare something null and void, which would be a travesty. You're trying to hold things up even longer, which is going to hurt every other club that can't afford to wait. It's time to actually put your big boy pants on and get on with it and create a plan and maybe try not to be so freaking selfish. It's an embarrassment. I would love to know who said that and what club they represent, because they should be mocked. They should be mocked for the rest of their time at that club, because it is the worst thing I have heard in the game in a long time.
See, I was all fired up when I read this morning, but you articulated all of my fired upness. And basically, when I read it, for me, I looked at this guy's quotes and I'm like, that's a you problem. Field a better club. Get out there and win matches and make this to where it's more competitive toward the end of the season, and Liverpool isn't clinching with 7 matches to go because they were far and away better than everybody else. But when you win stuff and it's already in the barn, you should be able to do whatever the hell you want with your team with matches that don't matter for you. It's not hard. win games, don't create the situation. And like you, I'd love to catch up with Mr. Lipton at the Sun and find out which genius actually stuck his head out of the sand and said these things before he decided to do a hit and run.
Here's the sad thing is that bastion of something other than journalistic integrity is not exactly a outlet that you're going to put a lot of faith in, period, especially when it relates to this club. So if they are making something like that up from their unnamed club representative from one of the other clubs challenging Liverpool, it would not be the first time that they have played fast and loose with the truth. So
True.
That means I'm angry that this would even come up. I'm angry that a media outlet who needs the game to talk about and needs these things would say something that is that reckless and stupid. And if it's not true, and that's why they didn't put a name to it or a club to it, then it is even worse. They're a joke. Whoever said this is a joke, and you don't understand the sport and you don't understand how things work. So stop this nonsense and move on. But it does hint at a bigger issue, and it's a massive one in England. Nobody's on the same page. Nobody is on the same page at a time when you've got to be on the same page. Because if you cannot find a way, if you are Manchester City or if you are Chelsea, if you're one of those clubs around Liverpool, if you're Liverpool, if you're West Ham, if you're Aston Villa, if you're Leeds, if you cannot figure out a way to work together at this time, you are going to do irreparable damage to the sport in your country. Irreparable damage. Because the longer this goes, it's going to get worse. And there is nobody taking leadership. There is nobody crafting the pathway forward. And it's only going to get worse. Will Palmer thinks it was somebody from Manchester United. If it was, then they're a joke too. And they're an absolute joke if that's the case, because they've done the same thing. Every club who has won a title with weeks to spare has done the same thing. Whoever said it, if it's made up, if it's the newspaper, all of it, it's a joke. And it hits at that bigger issue. The English game is tearing itself apart from the inside. And let's compare it with Germany, for example. The German league president, the German players who are involved, clubs have said, we are taking on a great responsibility here. Mm-hmm. We want to play. We understand that there are a lot of people who think we shouldn't. We're going to do everything the right way. And yes, we're going to look out for smaller clubs. Yes, we're going to look out for the women's clubs. Yes, we are going to do that. In England, it is... let's complain about this team winning the title too early. Let's complain about, how we're going to have relegation. We don't want to play games anymore. We're going to try to hold it up and get the season declared null and void. Let's head up to Scotland and get into that nonsense. I mean, you've got all of these things in Britain right now that's where the game started. It's going to be the one that gets hit the hardest by this because they cannot see past themselves. And this is the time in this world that we're facing right now where you've got to see past yourself. You have to. And people who are selfish at the moment, clubs and entities that are selfish at the moment, are going to do irreparable damage. It's just, I'm over it. If the Sun made it up, never want to hear anything from them again. If they can't put a name to it, if somebody can't come out and put their name on something like this, it's a joke. It's all a joke. It's all an absolute joke, but it's not funny. That's the thing.
Yep.
It just highlights how dysfunctional it is. I don't ever want to hear anybody tell me about how the Premier League is the beacon, is the model. That's what MLS should be trying to be. Anyway, we'll see how that changes after all this because they're going to tear themselves apart.
And to continue to keep you fired up about the Premier League this morning.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's more. I already know it's coming.
Oh, yeah. Project Restart, the big meeting is supposed to be on Monday. And we now have the Rebel Six being threatened with a points deduction for refusing to play if they lose the vote on neutral venues after Brighton's front office came out and refused to say whether or not they would actually accept the particular judgment if it was voted. If neutral venue was approved and Brighton came out yesterday and said, well, we're not going to let you know one way or the other if we're going to accept that vote.
Who said that from Brighton? Do we have a name on that one? Or is that just a club statement?
It's a club statement from the Telegraph.
Well, it's an incredibly embarrassing one, and if you're a Brighton fan, you should be angry because you're talking about a league of 20 teams, and because you don't get your way, you're not going to say if you're going to actually play the games or not. Lobby, make your case. No problem with that. No problem at all. You have a position. Their position is coming from a selfish position. I get that. That's fine. They have to look out for their best interests. But there comes a point where you lose the vote, you move on, and you do what's right for the league. It's not like Brighton is going to be booted out if they get relegated and not see another dime. Parachute payment. You're going to get a fat check, and you're going to be able to do something with it. The selfishness in this game in England, it's not coming up this way in other countries. It's not coming up in the same degree in other countries. It's an embarrassment. It's an absolute embarrassment. So, Brighton, join the club. You're embarrassing too today.
And the FA now apparently stands ready to block any attempt to scrap relegation as well.
Well, that's the counterpoint. You know, I've said from the beginning it's very hard to relegate teams right now because of what has happened this season. My position would be to have a temporarily larger league the next season and deal with it and figure it out and then get back to normal. I think that is the best approach. For once, I think Argentina got it right in terms of a structure and not relegating and promoting, not taking that away. Promoting because it's been earned, not relegating because you're not going to finish the season in the right way, and then sorting it all out. I think that's what leagues should do. But if leagues vote not to do that, if you make the statement, well, then we might show up, we might not. We might play, we might not. We're not going to tell you. Then you need to go get back in the playpen at home and stop acting like a 2-year-old. Like it's too much. It's too much. You make your case, you lobby, you fight hard. That would have been my case from the beginning. Is look, don't relegate. Here's the plan for how you don't relegate, and here's the plan for how you move forward. The problem, and Rory Smith of the New York Times pointed this out. We talked about it yesterday. The problem is these teams who are just saying no. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. No, we want it this way. We don't want to listen to anybody else. They're not coming up with any other solution.
Exactly.
They're just saying no, and if they don't get their way, they're going to stay at home. That is the worst example to set for the public. And Charles Barkley was wrong. People in sports are role models, and they need to understand that, especially at a time like this, especially now. And to act that way, that sets an awful example for other clubs. It sets an awful example for their fans. It's going to do damage that is not going to be able to be fixed. You talk about sporting integrity with the Liverpool side of things. You are going to do damage to the integrity of this organization called the Premier League with this type of just crap. It's just crap. Come up with an alternative plan. They should have lobbied hard for no relegation first. They should have then said, okay, we want whatever. And if you don't get your no relegation thing, then we want to wait until we can have fans in the stands. You're probably going to get voted down, but make your case. You lose your vote, you lose your vote. You man up. You move on. You deal with it. You could actually still win your way into not getting relegated. There is that. this defeatist attitude of, whoa, if we don't get to play at home, we're going to lose. And well, the other team's not playing at home. You're playing on a neutral site. Deal with it. Pathetic.
And then you mentioned the integrity of the teams in the league. Why, if I'm a player that wants to play in the Premier League, why should I want to attach myself with one of those sides in the quote-unquote Rebel Six if those three stay up? Let's just say half the Rebel Six stay up, which they will. Why should I want to attach myself to a team that has that kind of front office mentality in the first place? It's like, yeah, I want to play in the Premier League, but because of what I saw from that particular side, I wouldn't want to attach myself to somebody like that. I wouldn't want to go play in Brighton.
Let's be real. I mean, if the paycheck is the paycheck, you're going to take the paycheck. Brighton can pay more than a lot of clubs around the world, but where it becomes an issue is where you're talking about winners. You're talking about players with a winning mentality. One of the things that stood out to me about the Last Dance on ESPN was Jordan coming back from injury in the second year, and it was fairly apparent that the Bulls wanted to not make the playoffs and get a lottery pick.
Yep.
And Jordan came back, and they didn't want to play him, and he had to fight his way into getting any playing time, and then they limited him to 7 minutes a half. And he talked about that winning mentality, and he said, this idea of limiting me when I'm playing well and I'm healthy, and just this whole push is creating a losing mentality. When you're Brighton and you're acting this way, and when you're any of this Rebel Six is far too good of a name to give these fools Loser Six. When you're in the Loser Six, you're saying that we don't think we're good enough to actually earn staying up. And that is creating a loser mentality. And 3 of the 6 are going to have a lesser loser mentality, but you can't shake a loser mentality. That's what's going to keep some players away. Not your average player, not your player who is going to make a lot more money at Brighton than somewhere else, but your player that can actually make a big change. Your player that can bring that kind of mentality that a loser team needs. Well, they're not going to go to a loser team. So there you go.
From the Daily Mail, Premier League players and staff, and this is from Semi Mokbel's article. Players and staff will be asked to sign individual coronavirus agreements as a part of Project Restart. Sportsmail understands that a host of top-flight stars have already discussed not signing the form amid fears of where it would leave them should they test positive for COVID-19.
I don't know what aspects of all of this are covered in that kind of an agreement. I don't know what's already covered in your contract. This has come up different times, and it's not an easy answer because different players are in different situations. There are players who have compromised immune systems, and it's a fact. We know that. And it's a different conversation for them. Some have partners or family members that they will be seeing, or children who have medical issues. And there's going to be some different challenges with players like that. I don't know what this agreement would necessarily do that's different than their contract. It's kind of hard to get that. I think that it would be kind of understood that if you're going to come back and play in this, you're accepting risk. And I think if a club tries to force a player to come back, if it is a known fact that they have some kind of concern that is legitimate in terms of health or health of a family member, a close family member, etc., I think any club who tries to force a player to come back, and that's going to look awful as well, and that's going to be a black mark on them. These are challenges that we've never seen. So you're going to have to figure it out one way or another, I guess. But this liability issue is going to keep coming up. I don't know if this is exactly a liability conversation, but these things are going to keep coming up, and it is uncharted territory.
Mokbel's article has a number of players are concerned the document is similar to a legal disclaimer, which clubs could use to avoid liability in the event of an infection. Sources at the Premier League tell the Daily Mail that they insist the forms are not liability waivers, but merely a method of confirming that players agree to the club's coronavirus protocols.
And those are two very different things, and it sounds like somebody needs to actually explain what's going on, because the protocols are, you probably would like to get the players on record agreeing to bringing their own water bottle, taking their training gear home, those kinds of things, and whatever the behavior is going to be off the field. And this is something that's going to come up more. We saw it with Jordi Reyna in Vancouver. We're going to see it with others. Players have to take on the responsibility of what playing at this time means. It's a challenge. You're going to have to, be careful with what you do off the field. There was the immediate pushback, which I don't know. I can go either way on. I think the pushback was a little ridiculous about the quarantining a team to play games. Well, if you don't do that and you don't feel like you could play otherwise, now that's changed, but at the time, then how can you demand full pay because you're not playing? That's a weird argument to make. If you have to make a sacrifice to play and you're going to earn that paycheck, I'm sure there's other people who would take that paycheck if they need to stay in a hotel for 3 months, for 2 months, for whatever. Mm-hmm. You've got to figure out what this looks like in a new world. These are two very different things that are said in this article. If it is signing off on protocols of how to behave, what to do when you get to the facility, this is how you will park, this is what you will do when you arrive, this is what you will do when you leave, that's nothing to do with a liability issue. If it is a disclaimer to try to get away from liability, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because I would assume, and maybe this is what the statement's trying to say, that if you catch this involved in a team activity, it's not the same as if you break your leg. It's not the same as if you have an injury, which a club would take care of. Well, it should be. I think that would be the agreement that clubs should make right now, is that, yes, this would be the same. We understand that you are accepting some risk by participating, and just like we would take care of your ACL injury, we would take care of this and help you with it. I think that's a fair trade-off, but I don't know what this agreement was, because the two descriptions are completely opposite.
Right. One more note on the field before we go to stuff in the lower divisions. IFAB is going to allow teams to make 5 substitutions per match. And this is from our friends at Sky, to help teams cope with returning from the coronavirus enforced break. FIFA proposed the rule change to IFAB, which is responsible for laws of the game. Players are likely to be asked to play matches in a condensed period of time during the summer months. Teams will be limited to 3 opportunities during matches to make their substitutions, as well as halftime, in a bid to prevent unnecessary stoppages.
Yeah, we've covered that. So they did put that in. And I think the change in the substitution rules in general about leaving the field at the closest place, not coming to the midfield line, would have sufficed. But if this is the way they want to do it, okay, I'm good. I'm fine with it. I believe in Spain they added a little more detail to the way they presented it. The Spanish FA agreed to these new regulations. They have also upped the matchday squad from 18 to 23, and they have added 2 water breaks per game. So maybe instead of it being a hydration break at a certain point, if the temperature is at a certain point, it's just a break in the half to take water. And I'm fine with those things. Those all make sense. There's nothing too drastic about them. That's all good. It is what it is. I mean, none of this is ideal, but this is what we have to deal with at this time to get these things done. And this is far better than playing 80 minutes. This is far better than changing the structure of the match. FIFA also added this statement in their announcement about VAR. They said, in relation to competitions in which the video assistant referee system is implemented, these competitions are permitted to cease its use upon restart at the discretion of each individual competition organizer. That's going to be a tricky one, and that's also just slipped in here in a big way. We heard, was it Germany going from 4 in the booth to 3?
Yeah, Derek Ray had mentioned that as a possibility, yes.
Yeah, I mean, could we see a little bit of a tweak in the way that VAR is set up because of social distancing or just because of logistics? Sure. But I think to have it in your league and then get rid of it at this point, I mean, it's a slippery slope because you're allowing more subs late in the season than you would have, but you're playing more games in a short period of time. This shouldn't be affected. I don't think. I don't think there's a justifiable excuse to say, well, we had VAR, but we're not going to use it for the final 8 weeks or 9 weeks or whatever. Could you maybe have to tweak how it's used? Yes, but getting rid of it, that creates more of an issue for me than anything else.
Yeah, so keep an eye on that as well. Lower divisions in England. A couple of stories, one from Matt Slater at The Athletic, and this is the almost daily encouragement from us. If you don't have a subscription to The Athletic, get one because of the quality work that they do pretty much day in and day out. And we'll get to a Daily Mail piece that follows the Matt Slater piece that came in overnight. English Football League will next week tell clubs in League 1 and 2 there is no chance of playing any more games this season and ask them to vote on a method to decide promotion and relegation.
Again, I'm not surprised. The TV issue is very different at League 1 and League 2. And does it make sense for them to play and pay to play, essentially, because they're not going to make revenue on it unless there's some way to monetize it? I get it. It stinks. But it's a different conversation between the top flight and the much lower divisions. Second division is going to vary country to country, but third and fourth, it's hard. I mean, it's very hard, and you've got far more players that are going to be out of contract on June 30th that is going to make this even more difficult at those divisions. And they honestly might not have the money to sign guys to short-term deals right now.
Slater understands the EFL board has already received several proposals from clubs, with the current favorite being the points per game model, weighted to reflect how many games the teams have played home and away. And right now, as things stand, the weighted method does not change the top 3 in League 1. This is good news for John Nason. Coventry City would be crowned champions. Rotherham, Oxford would join them in the championship next year. The current bottom 3, which we've been looking at all season long, Tranmere, Southend, and Bolton, would still be the bottom 3. Bolton would climb Southend and then finish one step higher, but they would all 3 be relegated. You would have Swindon, Crewe, Plymouth Argyle in third, Cheltenham coming up. That's 4 up this year because of what happened with Bury. So 4 go up again to League 1 from League 2. And then you would have the same the relegation and promotion aspect in League 2. In the National League, you'd have 2 come up this year, and they would just determine who those are. But you have some folks who want to come up with other math, but right now, points per game, that's how it would look right now with League 1 and League 2, probably announcing next week that they're not coming back.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. That's probably the best way forward.
And out of the Daily Mail, football clubs, as a follow-up, are preparing contracts with player wages linked to attendances next season due to uncertainty about future income.
I mean, you can try. We don't know what attendance is going to look like next season. I don't know if players are going to go for that, but if you want to start from there negotiating it, good luck. I don't know if that's going to work.
Sportsmail has learned several clubs in Leagues 1 and 2 have come up with the solution to the problem of missing gate receipts if crowds are prohibited by offering reduced salaries until fans are allowed to return. The contracts are in addition to the introduction of salary caps, which, following talks among club chief execs, are likely to be set at £2.5 million in League 1 and half of that in League 2.
Salary caps, huh? That sounds fun.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep, just keep saying that nobody else knows how to do things except for England, and now you're going to take everybody else's ideas. Okay,
Yeah.
that's cool. Have at it.
And
Good times.
there's also talk in the Telegraph that if you want to go over that salary cap number in League One or League Two, that you would pay some kind of a super tax. And then, yes, I did just use air quotes.
Yeah, that's an NBA model. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that if you're going to do a cap, but you want to allow some freedom to go over it. Yeah, that's fine.
Different countries, going to our friends at goal.com, it looks like one of the coaches in La Liga has, although it has not been named officially, Leganés manager Javier Aguirre has revealed that La Liga plans to resume their season June 20 and finish on July 26.
Yeah. Look, the Bundesliga making their move is going to push the ones that have been a little bit slower on planning. Spain and Italy are in a different place. Like, they're not able to move forward as fast, but I don't know where their planning was. And the Bundesliga's move is going to push that. England can't get out of its own way to actually get there, and we'll find out if they ever do. But, yeah, I mean, if you're a top flight and TV is a huge revenue source for you, you want to play to satisfy your TV partner so you get your full contract. It's a no-brainer. It really is a no-brainer in terms of why they are trying to play. There is a huge financial component to it. There's other benefits to playing, and we've talked about it. Sport has a lot of power. Sport would be good for these countries to have it back. That's why the German government recognized that and created pathways for the game to come back. Yeah, it's not a shock. It's not a shock. France would have, but the government didn't allow them to. So we'll see. But Spain's on that road. They're on that road.
Aguirre told Marca Claro MVS that games will be played Saturday, Sunday, and Wednesday, Thursday over 11 dates. He says, La Liga has just informed me officially, and I'm very happy about this because we already have training scheduled. We start tomorrow, meaning today. Luckily, we have passed the tests.
Yeah, and there's going to continue to be tests to get back. There's going to continue to be steps because, we've seen it in Germany with some positive tests. We're getting reports of some positive tests in Italy. I think we're starting to get to that point that maybe we understand that one positive test is not the end of the world in terms of stopping play and everybody, running away. It is a positive test that you have to deal with. And if you have the testing to continually test everybody else, you're able to safely move forward. These protocols, you're creating them on paper. You don't have anything to back them up against. So you're creating them on paper. You're moving forward. And, I think they're all heading in the right direction except for England. Maybe they'll stop fighting one another at some point and be able to do that. But it's hard. But there is going to be continually a big push to get back on the field until they do, because the financial reality of the situation, it isn't going away. It's not. And you have to find the way to get back safely to play, to bring in as much revenue as you can to survive.
That is the current update with everything going on overseas. Now that I got you fired up this morning about the stupidity of folks in the Premier League.
Yeah, just idiotic. Just absolutely idiotic. Couple things from our friends on Twitch. Badgermon says, neutral ground plus no fans equals both teams equally disadvantaged. Great point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the complaint. The crying about this is ridiculous. Like, you're both dealing with something that is not normal. And the bigger conversation is this. You're not going to have normal anytime soon. Forget it. And if Brighton, because they went on record saying this, if Brighton wants to wait for normal to happen, Brighton might be out of business by that point. and they're going to drag a whole lot of other clubs out of business with them. And no, you can't allow that to happen. You cannot allow one club that is being selfish to ruin it for everybody else. You can't.
All right. I just had a thought, and this is very rare for me, especially during the show.
I'm afraid.
All right. Of the Rebel Six, how many matches do the Rebel Six play against Liverpool in the part of the schedule that hasn't been played yet? That's probably a Nathan Pugh question.
I don't know. Let me see if I can find this.
Because let's just say that Liverpool clinches with 2 wins out of the blocks in the first week of play.
Uh-huh.
The Rebel Six, they're fighting to stay afloat in the Premier League. Would not those Rebel Six want Liverpool to clinch? So Liverpool is playing the kids, so they would have a better chance to get full points to stay up in the Premier League against other teams that they're fighting to stay afloat against.
But the Rebel Six isn't complaining about the playing the kids. It was the other teams near them that was complaining about playing the kids, which makes no sense.
Well, no one's near Liverpool. It's like you're not going to catch them.
No, but that's who was complaining.
No,
remember, that's what the rag that wrote that said.
Yes, yeah, the the S star N.
Yeah,
yes.
It wasn't the clubs in trouble that were saying it. So the bottom 6:
yes,
Brighton, West Ham, Watford, Bournemouth, Aston Villa, Norwich.
Yes,
that is 6 teams separated by 8 points. So they're all assuming Southampton is okay on 34.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. So Liverpool has Brighton left. They have Villa left.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it out of that group.
Okay.
So that's all.
Well, I would hope that if you're Villa and you want to stay up, you want Liverpool to clinch as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I mean all of it, sure,
Mm-hmm.
but they're gonna like that. That doesn't even matter. Like honestly, I don't even think that's the factor here. I really don't even think that plays into it. I mean, Brighton. Let's look at Brighton, who's so afraid to actually, put on their big boy pants. They play. This is who they would have played at home, and I wish I hadn't looked at this because. No, this just makes their argument even more stupid.
Uh-huh.
Brighton at home would have had Liverpool.
Okay.
Manchester City.
Okay.
Arsenal. Manchester United and Newcastle.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a bunch of home points there for you, Brighton. Tons of them. Yeah, lots. Lots. Who would you have had on the road? Southampton.
Okay.
Norwich. That's an important one.
Yes.
Leicester. And Burnley. Our home form is so important. Yeah, your home form is going to really work against Liverpool and City and United and Arsenal and probably Newcastle too. Yeah, stop. Stop, Brighton. Pathetic. Absolutely pathetic.
Oh, goodness gracious. Yeah. You want to go into the Twitters?
Yes, we can hit a tweet before we get Mike Conti on the line.
Okay.
Do you have a tweet? Nope, you froze. John. Okay, you froze. Why don't you try that again?
Rico Richardson. Basically, the anticipation for the @NFL schedule is like the equivalent of Europeans anticipating the hashtag Champions League or hashtag World Cup draw.
Yeah, kind of. I didn't get too excited. I mean, we knew who was playing who. We just didn't know the order it was going to be in. So it was kind of... Look, we're looking for anything to get excited about right now. I mean, people freaked out about the KBO. So if you're going to freak out about that...
Did you watch the Korean League this morning bright and early?
This was during the point of the show where you were unplugging things. Yes, I did. I watched the last 15 minutes of it, and I saw a red card. I saw a goal. I saw masks with a lot of personnel on the sidelines. It was a game. I mean, it was a little sloppy. I mean, it was a 1-0 game. But it was a game, and it was, another step to everybody figuring it out. Because just like the Bundesliga's protocols are going to be looked at by everybody, the protocols in Korea are going to be looked at as well. All right, John, you tell everybody, hopefully you won't freeze while you're doing it, about our good friend Steve Apolinski.
Steve Apolinski and Associates, some of the best trial lawyers around. aa-legal.com. You can get in touch with them a bunch of different ways. Go to aa-legal.com if you want some consultation on a wrongful death or a personal injury matter. You go to aa-legal.com, and what clicks and what opens up in the lower right-hand corner of your screen is a chat window. You get a chat window. You get to talk to Apolinski and Associates. You can also give them a buzz at 404-377-9191. Or you can send Steve Apolinski an email at steve@aa-legal.com. Over 30 years of experience, over $40 million in judgments for all of their clients. Recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend Magazine for being some of the best in the business. Top 100 lawyers in Georgia. Steve Apolinski. Go to aa-legal.com. Apolinski and Associates, LLC. Trial lawyers, friends of SDH, the Soccer Down Here Network, all of the above. Book 'em Dano Aloha at aa-legal.com. 404-377-9191 or aa-legal.com.
You made Steve Hawaiian.
Book 'em Dano Aloha.
Yeah, okay. That's something.
It's a Friday.
Yeah, it is. All right, let's. We are still efforting on Mike, so it's just one of those days technologically. What else do we have on the Twitters?
We have folks who have given us their favorite players and things like that. Joe Johnston's favorite player comes from the hashtag GK Union, Oliver Kahn.
Yeah. Kahn is not one of my favorites because the 2002 match against the United States where Oliver Kahn, I know some people get really bent out of shape about this phrase, but if there was a game that you wanted to say that a goalkeeper stood on his head, that is it. Because I still think that was the best that the United States ever played. In a competitive match, I think the United States was the better team in that game. There was an awful call that if we had had VAR would have been fixed. Awful. But Oliver Kahn was amazing in that match and won it for Germany. So I still have a bit of an issue with Mr. Kahn. Sorry,
Nathan
Joe.
Pugh. Yeah. Nathan Pugh this morning, and I'm imagining, Nathan, that this was a song that was sung by supporters at Anfield at the time. His armband proved he was a Red. Torres. You'll never walk alone, it said. Torres. We bought the lad from sunny Spain. He gets the ball. He scores again. Fernando Torres, Liverpool's number 9. El Nino in his pomp was great, and he got me to put in 110% as a fan.
I don't think that part was part of any kind of a song. I think Nathan might have been writing a poem instead. But
hey, if he wrote that, that's pretty solid.
That's I don't know. I got nothing. The last part definitely wasn't part of it.
No.
Fernando Torres was an amazing player for Liverpool and was never the same after his injury, and it was a shame. He maybe had one of the It's almost Ronaldo lasted longer and Ronaldo was better after injuries, but it's kind of like that in that we saw this comet in Fernando Torres come into the game, and he wasn't able because of injuries to sustain that. And when we saw him later, it was almost kind of sad because he wasn't the same player. So Torres at Liverpool, amazing. And Liverpool did an amazing piece of business by selling him to Chelsea when they did, because he was never the same after that.
Tafka's in this morning, and he says, it's a hard question.
Uh-oh.
A favorite player requires a lot of viewing, which I just never got as a kid. The players I remember, though, Donovan on the Quakes, Ruud van Nistelrooy with Manchester United.
Yeah, Ruud at United was pretty impressive.
Josh Wolf.
Yeah.
Ryan Giggs.
Giggs was a blast. Giggs, for somebody like me who was very one-footed, except the right foot that most people have, it's not quite as good to be one-footed if you're righty. If you're lefty, you can pull it off, but watching Giggs, how he used the outside of his left foot to compensate for not having much of a right foot, I absolutely started working on that from seeing him play. And when he was at the top of his game, he was an amazing player, a game changer. And what I liked about Giggs is as he got older, he became a different player and found another way to contribute. I mean, he became a central midfielder, which you go back and you look at him as a winger flying up and down the sides, the left side specifically. I mean, you would have never guessed he'd end up being a top-notch central midfielder, but he turned himself into one. Edgar
Davids.
Yeah, Davids was a bulldog. Just a terror in the middle of the field. Davids, good guy too. He came and played in a Soccer in the Streets event at Grady Stadium, and was very cool with everybody except for the teams he was playing against, because he still kicked a few of them. Hey, you can't get that out of you.
No, Michael Ballack.
I was never a Ballack fan, and I know the people who lean to the Bundesliga or Germany are going to yell at me about that, and that's fine. Ballack, I don't know. I was never a huge fan. Never a huge fan. I think actually what's funny is I didn't like him on the field. I didn't like his attitude as a player, but I actually really liked him in media and on commentary in studio work, because he was very, I think, clear in his opinions. You know, he didn't hold back. He was very clear in how he felt about things. It was good. I liked him there. I just didn't like him on the field. Great player.
Casey,
don't get me wrong. Just didn't like him as a player.
Casey Keller.
Yeah, Casey just came up at a time that was really hard, because at first he had to deal with Miola, and then later he had to deal with Brad Friedel, and Casey is the goalkeeper that got more of the time in 98 and 2006, which were both bad World Cups. Brad Friedel was at his best in 2002, and he got most of the games in that tournament. Keller was really, really good. There were just, at times in his career with the national team, people who were slightly better.
One of your favorites, Eddie Pope.
Eddie Pope's the best center back. It's a little hard to compare the eras, but I think he's the best center back the United States has ever had. Bocanegra is right there with him, and they overlapped a little bit. I think Eddie had, and this is what's a little hard, because Eddie didn't go to Europe. Eddie decided to stay in MLS. Now, the money was different then in terms of going to Europe. I don't know if the right kind of offer ever came his way. Carlos did go to Europe and had a great European career. Could Eddie have even taken another step if he had gone to Europe? Maybe, if he had went to the right spot. But just smooth. Just so smooth. Miles Robinson, I think Eddie Pope is the kind of player that he reminds me of. And I think George Campbell can be that as well. When I saw George Campbell with the academy, with the U17s, I immediately thought of Eddie Pope. And this was right before Miles was really starting to emerge onto the scene. And we didn't really know what Miles would turn into, but seeing George as a kid in the academy, Eddie Pope's who I thought of.
Jeff Agus.
Agus doesn't get enough credit. Agus has all the rings with MLS Cup, with DC, and with San Jose, and people remember two things, and it's a shame that these are the two memories with Jeff Agus. The own goal in 2002 in the World Cup, and the mistake that he made against Jamaica in a World Cup qualifier at RFK. Those are the two overriding memories of Jeff Agus, and it's a shame. Agus is one of those players to me that was I would probably put him in the MLS all-time best 11 as the left back. If he's not number one, he's in the squad as the number 2 option there. He's great in MLS, great domestically. When the level jumped a little bit more, like he wasn't quite fast enough at the elite level internationally, but a great player and an incredible left foot. Just an absolutely incredible left foot. And his free kicks, he's got a couple that are world-class, just should be on some of the greatest goals scored by an American player.
And Tafka wrote his list as you were going off on the Premier League this morning, but he says his first true favorite player, where I saw him often enough to really form that kind of connection, was Miggy, and then Tafka goes, "Damn, you just went off, ha ha ha."
Yeah, I was a little upset.
Should have been.
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of people, Miguel Almiron is going to be their first favorite player. 100%. He will be that for a lot of kids in Atlanta. Joseph Martinez will be that for a lot of kids. Miles Robinson will be that for a lot of kids. That's great. That's what we've needed because, you look at it, these are all the answers we've gotten so far are people from this area, this region, and, your first favorite players were players who didn't play in Atlanta. I think when you ask this question to people, in other countries, it's somebody from their local team usually, or it might be a big-time national team figure. Here, we've had to look elsewhere for our favorites for, a long time. But now, finally, your favorite player, can be, if you're growing up, you're 10 years old right now, your first favorite player could be Joseph Martinez, could be Miguel Almiron. Your first favorite player, in Seattle could be Jordan Morris. Your first favorite player, in D.C. could be Bill Hamid. Like, you've got local heroes to look up to. And that's a game changer. It's not going to be evident straight away, but it's a game changer for the sport in this country to have local heroes as your first favorite player.
And the last one in the queue so far this morning comes from Caleb Wright. He says his first favorite players for soccer that he can remember are either Donovan or Beckham.
Yeah. For me, it was Diego Maradona, but then, after that, Beckham is definitely on that list. Playing on the right side in high school, you had to look at one of the best right-sided players in the world at that time in David Beckham. Donovan was a big-time player. I had other U.S. national team heroes before that, like John Harkes, Tab Ramos, Bruce Murray, John Doyle, but Landon and Clint Dempsey are inspirational players for a lot of people because they are as good as it gets for the U.S. national team, and they're both very different. Depending on what kind of player you like, you're gonna pick one or the other typically, and that's okay. That's what this question was. It wasn't the best player in your lifetime; it was your favorite. Who grabbed your attention first.
Yeah, and you mentioned John Harkes. Once again, going back to our friends at The Athletic, Felipe Cardenas caught up with Harksey, and it's a really good piece on Harksey after what happened with his father-in-law building the soccer identity of the Greenville Triumph there in the upstate. So it's a really good piece by Felipe on Harksey.
So I got to check something that the Colonel dropped in our Twitch feed, and thanks for watching there, Colonel.
Morning, Colonel.
I didn't see it. Travis Clark said something about the J League being better than MLS, and
did not see this.
I'm looking for it because I don't want to be incorrect. I will see what I can find here. I don't think it is. There are people who would argue that it is. It's not like he's the only one who said it. Others have said this. I disagree with them. I think, okay, I might have found it. talking about the K League as well. I don't know if it's a joke. The question was from Charlie Boehm, who watched the K League opener. I did not. What did you think of it? Travis said better standard than MLS, obviously, and then there was a little bit of a back and forth, and I don't know. That could have been, yeah, and he said later he was being sarcastic. That's what I figured when I saw that.
Okay.
I think when you're comparing MLS around the world, and we've had this conversation about American soccer media and the inferiority complex that comes up, I think that MLS is behind England, Spain, Italy, Germany.
Yep.
I think you have to say that it is behind Mexico, because Mexico has won CONCACAF consistently, but that's razor thin at this point. I would say that it is behind Brazil. And this is the whole league to whole league. This is not the best team versus the best team, because I do think MLS is a better league than Argentina. And I watch a good bit of the Argentine league. I think River is on a different level than MLS teams. I think Boca is on a different level. I think there are teams right below that have, are more battle tested and would probably handle a home and away with an MLS team right now. But in terms of the overall quality of the league from top to bottom, I mean, there's some bad soccer in Argentina too. You talk about the financials and the health of the league too, and that does factor into this. It has to. I think in this hemisphere, MLS is number 3. I think Brazil is the best. I think Mexico and MLS are right there with the slight edge to Mexico. Europe, England, Spain, Italy, Germany, no questions. France has to be right now, although I don't think it's by a ton. Beyond that, I really don't buy the notion that the Portuguese league as a whole is better than MLS by this wide margin. I think it's arguable, because outside of the top teams in Portugal, there's a lot of lesser teams that I don't think would compete in MLS. The Netherlands, top team, Ajax, different planet right now. But below that, the bottom of the league, the Dutch league, you could maybe say is better. Let's go to the ones that you could maybe put better. Netherlands, Portugal, Belgium. It's really close, and I'm trying to justify Belgium being better, and that's not easy. That's it. That's it for me. I don't watch the Russian league, so I can't really tell you. I know the top teams are top teams because they are competitive in Europe, but the whole league, I don't know. And this is where you get a major difference, and this is why I think MLS is better than it gets credit for. The way it is structured creates a more compelling league. The bottom of the league is stronger than the bottom of a lot of leagues. But because of that structure, there are some limitations on the top of the league, and that's okay. That is all right that right now you have that. What you have to get to, because you've kept the bottom stronger than you have in a lot of leagues around the world. So many leagues are top-heavy. France is ridiculously top-heavy. Portugal has 3 teams. Russia has a few teams. The Netherlands has a couple of teams. And then there's a big drop. What has to happen next in MLS over this next decade is you've kept everybody rising faster than most leagues do. But to do that, you've held the top down a little bit more. So it's a little more like this as opposed to like this. You need to, now that you're here, you need to push like this. Push everybody up higher and get everybody up to a higher level. And that's where MLS can do something that other leagues can't, because their structure doesn't allow them to support the bottom end of the league in the same way. I don't think there's a league in Asia that's better than MLS. I don't think there's a league in Africa that's better than MLS. So let's say that all of those leagues that we just mentioned, we're going to put them better than MLS. And I don't think all of them are, but let's say we are. Let's be the negative Nelly here. So
Okay.
top 4 in Europe plus France, Portugal, Netherlands, Belgium. I don't feel comfortable arguing Russia being better as a league than MLS, even with the top end of it being really good. I don't think the Scandinavian leagues are better. I don't think the Eastern European leagues as a whole are better. I don't think the Greek league as a whole is better. So that's 8 leagues in Europe that we are going to put on the better side. And 2 leagues in this hemisphere, in Brazil and Mexico. If you want to argue Argentina is, okay. I don't think Colombia is. I don't think there's anybody else that is in that conversation across a whole league. Not the top team versus the top team, but the whole league. So let's go ahead and be negative and say that Argentina is. That's still 11.
Yeah.
That would put MLS 12. I'm not buying the argument about, well, the championship is so much better than MLS. It'd be like League One or League Two. No. At top to bottom, MLS is better than the championship, I think. Maybe I missed the memo. Maybe I'm not part of the cool guys club that wants to say MLS sucks, but I don't think the championship is better. I've watched, and I don't watch every week of it. I have watched mostly the top teams. When I've pulled up a random game in the championship, it's not better than a random MLS game.
No, it's not.
I just don't think it is.
No. Watching some of the stuff at the bottom end of the championship, really even bottom half of the championship.
Yeah, that's what
it's pretty painful. It's pretty painful. You're looking at goalless draws, 1-1s, and I mean and if it gets into the 2-2s and the 3-3s, it's not even exciting 2-2s and 3-3s. It's sloppy 2-2s and 3-3s, and it's messy, and it's disorganized, and you're just going, ugh. So, no, I don't think the championship is better than MLS.
Yeah, I mean, even if you wanted to stretch, like you're putting MLS in the top 15 in the world, and I think the margins, if you put them 15, if you are stretching to push them down to 15, the margins from like 15 to 8 is pretty low, maybe even 7. I mean, it's the top 4 in Europe. It's Brazil, it's Mexico, because you've got a little more direct comparison. It's France. It's maybe like your Portugal, your Netherlands. Belgium, I feel like, is a big stretch.
Yeah.
So I think you could put MLS anywhere between 10 and 15 and be very comfortable with that ranking.
What about 8 and 12?
I mean, no, you could. I'm saying, like, to get to 10 doesn't feel like a stretch. To get past that, then it's a little harder to compare with, like, a Portugal, with a Netherlands. Those are the 2 that I'm kind of like, okay, if you want to argue they're better, that's fine.
Okay. All right. We have a Scotland update, by the way.
Oh, boy. What do we have?
It's from the dossier. Today, Derek McGregor from the Scottish Sun, SFA Vice Chair Mike Mulroney, and SPFL board member Ross MacArthur were named in the Rangers dossier for allegedly turning the screw on 2 championship clubs to vote for the league body's controversial resolution.
Oh, boy. Okay, this is where things get interesting.
All right, here we go. Within the Rangers report, remember, this was 200 pages with color-coded maps and signs and pictures and paragraphs on the back of each one. I mean, this was the Alice's restaurant of dossiers. It stated, quote, 2 championship clubs, Dundee and Inverness, claimed that they were threatened, in quotation marks, by Ross MacArthur, Dunfermline chairman and SPFL board director, and Mike Mulroney.
Is saying they were threatened?
Yes.
Okay. They changed their vote, didn't they?
Uh-huh. And Mike Mulroney, Aloha chair and vice president of the SFA, that if they didn't vote for the SPFL's written resolution, the other championship clubs would ensure that the prize money was split into 10 equal payments, which would result in the two clubs receiving less prize money than they would if the resolution was approved.
Wait a minute. What? How are they going to change the way the prize money's divided up?
Oh, I don't know. That's just what the report says. I'm just reading straight from the...
But that doesn't make any sense. So there's 12 teams in the championship, right?
Mm-hmm.
12 teams in the premiership, 12 teams in the championship. How would they cut teams out? Like, what? I don't understand.
I'm rereading here. So they didn't vote for it. The other championship clubs would ensure that the prize money was split into 10 equal payments, which would result in the two clubs receiving less prize money than they would if the resolution was approved.
No, there's... Wait a minute. There's 10 teams. So
Okay.
That doesn't even make sense.
So instead of it being a weighted, they
would
scale?
just divide it up evenly. So,
yeah.
Okay, I guess that would help the bottom and hurt the top.
Yeah, because Dundee was third, and Aloha was eighth. So
Well, it would have
that
helped
would
Aloha.
be. But so Dundee is
Dundee.
finished right.
So
the threat.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say the threats were reported to Neil Doncaster, who allegedly asked if Ross MacArthur, the Dunfermline chair and SPFL board member, was acting in his capacity as Dunfermline chair as opposed to in his capacity as SPFL director.
Oh, you idiot! Like that doesn't matter. No. Man, I hate to be on the Rangers side of this, but man, like to really even ask that, you are on the board. You are on the board because of your Dunfermline association. So it doesn't matter which capacity you're talking. Like, does he have to get on the WhatsApp call and like put a different hat on?
Yeah. Yeah,
Stop this nonsense.
I'm Dunfermline chair Ross MacArthur in this conversation.
Absolutely embarrassing, because if he's the Dunfermline chair and he says that, well, he's still on the board and he can still act that way. Idiotic. Absolutely idiotic.
Did the CEO of the SPFL investigate the report which was reported to him? If he didn't, why not? And why wasn't this reported to the chairman of the SPFL or the SPFL board if he was aware of it? Now,
hold on.
Sure.
There is now that has been posted online a letter from the board of the SPFL to all SPFL clubs. Now, it is signed by Murdoch McLennan, Karen McCluskey. McLennan's the chairman. McCluskey is an independent, non-executive director. Alan Burrows of Motherwell, Ewan Cameron of Aloha Athletic, Peter Davidson of Montrose, Ken Ferguson of Brechin FC, Les Gray of Hamilton Academical, and Ross MacArthur of Dunfermline. And this is today. It's dated today, and it's urging the league to vote against the resolution at the EGM and talking about what Rangers is saying. So here's the question I have.
Yeah.
Rangers is alleging that the SPFL was pushing for a resolution to go their way in this voting process, right? Is that
Yes.
a fair way to characterize it?
Yes.
Rangers is saying the league wanted a certain outcome, and they were putting pressure on teams to vote that way.
Yes.
That's what's being alleged. That
Yes.
is not a good look, right? I don't think
Not a
that
good
looks
look.
good.
No, that's not a good
So
look.
then, in a letter to the clubs ahead of a conversation about this, quote, "We therefore urge you to vote against the resolution at our EGM on Tuesday." Do you not understand that really looks bad when you're being told, and it's out there in the public now and with some detail and some direct allegations, that you were pushing for the vote to end up a certain way, and now you are pushing for another vote to end up a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you should have just made your case in your letter to the clubs if you wanted to go there and put it on record, which maybe wasn't the best way to do this ahead of time, but you probably could have handled it a little bit better if you had made your case and asked that clubs considered all the evidence before making their decision, instead of urging them to vote a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Are the...
Yeah, keep going.
They are. No, I don't even need to ask the question. They are. This is idiotic, as
all right.
Most of
you
this
mentioned
stuff is getting.
You mentioned Brecon City as a part of this. Rangers also claim that it has been alleged that Ken Ferguson, Brecon City chair and SPFL board director, called League Two clubs and told them that Inverness had changed their vote to a yes, and as a result, the resolution was going to be approved and that there was no point in League Two clubs voting no.
Yeah, I remember the thing about basically telling clubs, like, oh, no, we already got enough votes. It doesn't matter what you vote. Yeah, that was another element of the dodginess. What else?
Let's see. Rangers claim that this was untrue, as Inverness were not changing their vote, and if any League Two clubs changed their vote on this basis, that would invalidate their vote. Rangers' concern about the allegation is particularly acute, given that the club chair was spared from potentially being relegated from League Two by the passing of the resolution. Rangers wants an independent investigation to question the League Two clubs regarding the allegation.
Okay. So the Daily Record says the SPFL have claimed Rangers chairman Douglas Park made a threat to league chief executive Neil Doncaster. The league body have written a letter that we're just talking about to Scotland's 42 clubs, in which 8 out of 9 board members have now opposed the EGM resolution. Which one didn't? Interesting. The letter also alludes to gross breaches in confidentiality relating to the widespread circulation of Rangers' document on Thursday, insisting it contained private information. Okay.
We have WhatsApp messages now that Rangers claim are evidence of bullying too.
Yeah, no, that was all part of the document. So that was in the appendix section. So they're going to vote on Tuesday, and do we trust the SPFL to actually conduct a vote anymore? I don't.
No.
They're going to have a vote on Tuesday about all this. And Park reportedly, this is from the SPFL on April 10th, Park reportedly made a defamatory remark aimed at Doncaster, which was the trigger for the 4 cease and desist requests sent to Rangers by SPFL legal advisor Rod McKenzie, as outlined in the dossier. In a phone call on the evening of April 10, Rangers chairman Douglas Park made a very serious allegation and threat to act in a particular way to the SPFL chief executive. I mean, I guess this is like calling each other bird names like they do in France.
Yes.
This allegation has been entirely unsupported by any evidence either then or since. So the allegation that Rangers chairman Douglas Park made has been entirely unsupported by any evidence either then or since. That's what the SPFL is saying in their letter today. The allegation was so serious and defamatory that the league's legal counsel, Rod McKenzie, immediately sought a commitment from the Rangers company secretary that it would not be repeated. Wow, it must have been a really good bird name. This was a wholly appropriate and proportionate legal response to an entirely unfounded and damaging allegation. So he said something in a conversation, and the league went ballistic and sent 4 cease and desist letters and said that this was all appropriate based off what was said. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was said in a conversation, first off. What was the old thing that you said as a kid? Like, you know, names will never hurt me. Like sticks and stones may break my bones.
Sticks and stones, yeah. Right.
Yeah. SPFL, you might want to look into that approach, maybe. Just a thought. Unless it was a really good bird name. And there was some kind of a threat, and an allegation, a threat, and maybe a bird name involved. I don't know. Okay. So Scotland is going to compete with England to see who can be the biggest idiot during all of this. And in the biggest twit of the year contest, I think England is still in the lead. I'm going to go with right now. Let's see. The unnamed top
Brighton
6.
exec.
No. That was named.
Rebel
The
6?
unnamed top executive from a top team. The unnamed executive from a top team that was complaining about Liverpool and their lineup choices after they clinched the league. That is the biggest twit of the day.
Yes.
Second is going to be, man, the SPFL is really coming in quick. I'm going to go with Brighton's exec, who was complaining and bringing the loser mentality to the fore, even though they're in a decent spot. They're 8 points clear of the bottom. You might just actually go take care of business in these games, and I don't know. Maybe that would be a good thing. Just a thought. And the SPFL is in third, but they're moving up with a bullet, and by the end of the show, they might be in first. Who knows?
Well, I'll give you another contender.
Okay.
For twit of the day.
Okay.
Manchester City's Kyle Walker.
Okay, what did Kyle Walker do? No, I did not hear what Kyle Walker did.
Faces a cop quiz and a 1,000-pound fine after breaking lockdown 3 times in a 24-hour period.
You had to break lockdown 3 times? Like
visited?
What? Go ahead.
Visited his sister for a party, then his parents, before cycling near a second pad that he's renting.
Okay, Kyle Walker has just claimed the top spot in the Twit of the Day contest because this moron goes to a party when he's not. There's not supposed to be a party, but he goes to the party.
Yeah,
and he then goes to see his parents. You go to a party and you're around a bunch of people you don't know, and if you've heard anything about any of this, you know that going around a large group of people, you are running a large risk of catching a highly contagious virus. And then, what do? You go see your parents. I don't know how old Kyle Walker's parents are, but I'm assuming they are at least a decade plus
mid to late
older
50s.
than him. Okay.
Yeah.
Not in the I think most people are trying to say 65 plus, but okay, they're a little below that, but still, you are taking what you got at the party, because I'm assuming Kyle Walker did not go to the party in a hazmat suit. I'm assuming that he did not go full like Dr. Scrub on the hands and any other things that could have been exposed to anything at this party. And then went and saw his parents. It is insensitive to people who are trying to follow the direction from the government, and it's insensitive to your own parents. Yeah, Kyle Walker, you're an idiot.
Here's your rundown. He leaves his mansion, drives 43 miles to his sister Laura's house. There, he celebrated her birthday with a group of pals, staying for 4 hours. She walks him to his Range Rover. Before they hug, he drives 8 miles to his parents' house. Stays with his parents for 30 minutes before heading back to his mansion. The next day, he goes cycling with a buddy from the apartment that he's renting, his 4th address in 24 hours.
Yeah, and I mean, and they're on a different kind of restriction than we saw here in the Atlanta area, and you're just not following it. I mean, look, it's not exactly a surprise. I went to Publix yesterday, and it was the first time I'd been to a Publix store since all this started. And they Publix has went pretty strong in some of the procedures and things that they've created. They have one-way lanes. I really appreciate that, because when I go to the store, I am not looking to be on the same lane with a large group of people. So going one direction, fine. And I was following the directions to, okay, like I want to get over here to grab some beer, and I need to get over there, but I need to go around because I can only go down that way.
Mm-hmm.
Half the people in the store that I saw were not following any of this. Half the people in the store that I saw were not wearing a mask. Person kind of crowding up behind me in the checkout line. So then what I did is I got in front of my cart instead of behind my cart because I wanted to keep a distance. Like, look, this stuff is not just to annoy you. It's not just to make Kyle Walker have to stay home. You know, it's not just to be a hindrance to Kyle Walker's burgeoning social life. It's not just to, make you have to walk a little bit further to walk down an aisle. There's actually reasons for it. And the most important reason for it is these things are not just for you, but they're also for everybody else, because this is the thing that everybody misses about the mask. And it's, I despise talking about politics at all, but it's mind-blowing to me that wearing a mask has become a political thing. It has nothing to do with politics. It's not political, and it's not about you. The mask is actually about looking out for other people. These restrictions in England are about looking out for other people. It's not to keep Kyle Walker safe. It's so Kyle Walker doesn't walk around carrying this to other people. It's not to inconvenience you walking down an aisle and making you walk around. It's to, not have you spread whatever you might have that I don't know, that nobody knows, to anybody else. It's about looking out for other people. That's all. The mask is supposed to do that. The Czech Republic, for example, has done really well with coronavirus. One reason why is they mandated masks very early on. Masks were a big part of South Korea's response. It's not hard to wear a mask. It's even less hard to follow the arrow on the floor about walking in the certain direction on an aisle. It's not hard, if you are Kyle Walker, to stay at home in your mansion. I'm sure you're probably pretty well taken care of. You could have called your sister and said happy birthday. You could have called your parents and said, hey, how's it going? You could have FaceTimed. You could have done a lot of things. But you're not. These things are not just about you. It's about everybody. And just like the German players and league have said from day one about this, responsibility. Taking responsibility. Part of that is setting an example. If you are a young, impressionable Manchester City fan and Kyle Walker is your favorite player and you hear about him going to parties, you're going to possibly go to parties.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that all of us in this realm, I don't have as much of a public persona as Kyle Walker, but I take it very seriously that you guys take time to listen to what we're talking about. And we're mostly talking about soccer and silliness and tweet of the day and fun stuff. But yeah, I'm thoughtful before I say stuff about this, because I'm thoughtful when I say stuff that's important, that's serious, because, people listen. And I don't want to lead you guys to do something that is going to be reckless for you or anybody else. So I do feel like I have a responsibility. I think anybody with any kind of a voice should feel like they have a responsibility during this. You have to model the appropriate behavior. Wearing a mask it's about protecting everybody. It's not about, telling you that anything has to do with politics. It doesn't. And when I see things like people actually getting killed about asking people to wear a mask, and people fighting with people, and people spitting on people, and just the craziest things about putting something over your mouth and nose when you go to the store. I felt self-conscious about it one time. I've never worn a mask in public until I went to the store for the first time. And it was being recommended, and hey, I'm going to follow the recommendation from somebody who knows a lot more about this than I do. So I took a Terminus Legion summer scarf, and I wrapped it around my mouth and nose, and I went to the store. And I kept a distance from everybody because that's what you're supposed to do at this time. It's not political. It's not about being inconvenienced. It's about looking out for the greater good. And if anybody knows who you are, and everybody has this. I mean, that's the thing. It's not about like being a podcast host. It's not about being a professional athlete. It's if you're a teacher, if you're a boss, if you're, anybody who people look at what you do, you have a responsibility. And this is just about looking out for the greater good. That's all. That's all. And, the more we do these things, the quicker things can get back to normal. The more we do. I mean, let's break it down. We try to bring logic into this show a lot. Let's break it down about a mask.
Right.
We're selling masks, and yeah, I wanted to sell masks for a lot of reasons. I think it is an important statement to make, and I wanted to come up with a way to get masks to people that might not be able to commit the resources to going out and finding a mask. And we're going to get at least 50 masks out to soccer in the streets, kids and families. It's something we wanted to do, but I also think it's a very important thing to wear a mask because at a minimum, it is a little uncomfortable. Your voice can be a little muffled. You might have to speak a little louder. It looks funny because you're not used to doing it. Okay. What else can it do? We know that even a cloth mask is going to keep whatever droplets, particles, whatever could come out of your mouth, come out of your nose if you sneeze or cough, if you talk. We all talk and spit comes out of our mouth. We all do that. It happens. It's going to, even just a cloth mask you make at home, is going to minimize that. Does it stop all of it? No. I mean, that's why there are different types of masks, but it's going to minimize it. It's going to decrease it. It's going to lower the distance of it. All these different things. That's helpful, right? Is it going to be a 100% guarantee? No. But does it help maybe 50%? Does it help maybe 60%? Does it help maybe 90%? Who knows? Is it going to give you a little extra protection too? Yeah, it will. It will. You're going to have something in front of your mouth and nose for stuff getting in it. Like, it's a no-brainer. It's just a no-brainer. And it helps others. And if somebody sees that we're talking about it and it's okay, or we're selling a soccer down here mask, or we're talking about going to the store and following the directions that they give you to look out for the greater good, if that affects one person to say that, yeah, I'll do that, there's no reason why I'm not, I'll do that, then cool, we've served our purpose, and we're taking that responsibility seriously. A disease is not political. And it's got to be taken out of that realm. We've got to be smarter than this. It's not a political disease. I know politics come into the response. I know politics come into how people feel about the response. But the actual disease that we're all trying to not get and we're trying to lower the spread of, which is a very important thing for all of us to do, it doesn't care about your politics. It doesn't care about anything. If we can wear a mask and reduce the chances of spreading it or getting it by 50%, 60%, 70%, I'm in. And I'll wear a mask anywhere I go to do that.
It doesn't discriminate. It doesn't believe in roadblocks. It doesn't stop at county lines, doesn't stop at state borders. It doesn't care. And anything that we can do to take care of ourselves, to help take care of all of those around us who may be touched in some way, in a proximity sense, about this. The more care we take with ourselves, the sooner we get to the other side, and the more we're looking out for everyone else and all of us.
Yeah, it's essential. And that's why when you see this about Kyle Walker, when you saw it at the very beginning with Rudy Gobert not respecting, the different protocols that were already in place, those things drive me crazy, because that's a choice that doesn't benefit you. Like Kyle Walker, okay, he got out of the house and he got to go to a party. Was it worth the risk to his parents? Going to a party and then stopping by his parents' place? I mean, you have to be thoughtful about what's going on right now. And even more importantly, it sets an awful example. And other people are not going to take things seriously if Kyle Walker's not, if other celebrities or athletes or well-respected figures are not taking things seriously. It's serious. I mean, two people who have been on this show, and probably more, but two people who have been on this show and on with us at different points, have caught this. Jillian Sakovits had it. And we know Jillian really well, and luckily she didn't get very sick, and she was able to push through it and got through it quickly. And she's donated her plasma. And when you see that somebody and you have seen a ton of times a year at home and on the road whenever I'm out, and Jillian has always been so great and dropping in on stuff with 92.9. She hung out with us in Nashville. She's come on so many different shows with us on 92.9. She's been on with us here. You see that. It's scary. Neil Blackman, who has been on with us before, from Florida, a lawyer. Neil was very sick, and Neil had to stay away from his family, stay away from his kids. I mean, Neil's good now. That's great, but that stuff is scary. It doesn't matter who you are. It can happen. And if there's anything we can do to display the behavior that is going to limit the risk for everybody, we're going to do that. And I make it incredibly clear that this is not a political show. This is not a political issue. We're not talking about the response to it. We're not talking about economic issues. We're not talking about any of that. We're talking about trying to just limit the risk of this disease, this virus, spreading to people, and doing the right things, and also talking about the right things, and trying to just make it understandable that these things are important. It's just something we got to do right now. I don't like wearing a mask when it's 80 degrees walking into a grocery store, but I'll do it. I'll do it as long as it needs to be done, and I don't have a problem with that.
When I go out, and usually mid-afternoon, I'll get a little stir-crazy just from being in the office all day. Mid-afternoon, I will go out and I'll do 2 miles. I have basically I have a wrap around my neck, and if anyone in our neighborhood thinks it's summer camp and decide that they want to have 9 people on a street corner and sit there and talk about anything going on, the second I'm within eye shot of all of that stuff, that cover goes up and it covers everything, nose, chin, all of that. And that's just how it has become almost second nature. You see somebody coming down the sidewalk, I'm the first guy that pulls away at least 10 to 12 feet, and I'm walking in between folks in the middle of the street. I'm that guy. So yes, if you see somebody walking in the middle of the street to avoid folks on a sidewalk on either side of the road, that's me, just so you know. But I'm also the first person to sit there and take that wrap and put it around my nose and mouth to make sure that I'm protected and that I'm protecting everybody else.
Yeah, and that's where we're at. These are the things we got to do right now. We all want it to be back to normal, but we can't wish that to just be the case. We've got to do some things to get there. And we've also been very clear in talking about, from a soccer perspective, that you're going to need games to be played. I see on the ESPN bottom line right now, Gastadello, who's a player for Brescia, says they don't feel safe, and they're talking about opposition to Serie A coming back. Barcelona returning to training today. I think they had done some training earlier this week individually. They have not had anybody test positive. Bayern Munich is expected to resume full team training tomorrow ahead of playing next week, which is something to keep in mind. And we've talked about it from the MLS perspective about 3 to 4 weeks of full team training before playing games. They've been doing group training from early on. If I remember right, Germany didn't necessarily do the individual training step, or if they did, it was very short. They've been doing the small group training for a while, and now they're going to have a week of full team training before playing. There are absolute economic issues that make this all really, really complicated, and we all know that. If you're thinking logically, you understand that. People are not making as much money in any business that is affected by this, and that's going to have repercussions. Some businesses are flourishing right now. Amazon's doing gangbusters. Walmart doing gangbusters. Kroger, Publix doing gangbusters. Others aren't. Local restaurants are not. They have to make decisions about staffing, even being able to reopen, but not being able to reopen fully. They have to make decisions about staffing. Soccer teams being able to play but not being able to have fans. They're going to have to make decisions. There are going to be financial implications of this. This is going to affect getting back to normalcy and wanting to get back as fast as possible. There's no disputing that. But there are still some basic things that we've got to do and we've got to be careful about. And one does not have to eliminate the other. Because we're being careful and we're worrying about this and we're trying to look out for one another doesn't mean we can't do anything. But also, because we're looking at teams getting back to playing with protocols, with ensuring safety, it doesn't mean that we can drop worrying about anything at all. Like, they're not exclusive. We do have to be careful about this, and we do have to also understand why businesses, why sports teams want to play. They want to stay in business. It's going to be that simple in a lot of these cases. They want to stay in business. Germany getting back on the field in a safe way and going through all of the protocol processes to do it, that's going to ensure that they get that next payment of their TV money and prevent teams from missing payroll. You're to that point. You're to that point with not just one club, but a lot of clubs. Other countries, France, government shut it down, but they also had to give a loan to the league for teams to make payroll. It's as simple as that. So this is all complicated. This is all difficult. This is all a challenge, but we all have to try to rise to that challenge. And whether you're a team, whether you're an individual, whether you're an athlete, whether you're a host, whether you just have a Twitter account that a lot of people follow, you need to be careful in this and set the right example.
To add to Kyle Walker probably being at the front of the line.
He's at the front of the line.
Last month, well, this may even put him further. This might put him a lap ahead of the competition. Last month, he was first caught breaking social distancing rules by hosting a 2,000-pound orgy with 2 hookers and a pal at his apartment.
Yeah, there was that. Yeah, he's a twit. And to do it, get in trouble for it, get shamed for it, and then do stupid stuff again, I would be... let me put it this way. I would not be surprised if Pep Guardiola stays at Manchester City if Kyle Walker does not stay, if there is a way to make a move, because Pep takes all these kinds of things into account, and he is not going to like this at all. And this is not the kind of person that he wants to associate with.
Nope.
So it's embarrassing. It's absolutely embarrassing. And if you're the FA, you should think twice about calling him up to a national team. I mean, it's to that point that if you're going to be this disrespectful, this reckless, you probably shouldn't be allowed to some of the privileges that you get. And playing for a national team, privilege. Playing for a club like Manchester City, it's a privilege. And I don't know if that's going to continue for him. I don't think he's going to get out of this unscathed.
Nathan Pugh, by the way, has found a trophy that we can use for Twit of the Day, and it is a gold. It is a gold embossed toilet seat with the seat actually lifted.
That'll do for now. I'm sure we'll come up with something else as this continues, because I have a feeling it's going to continue. So the champion for the day is Kyle Walker. He narrowly displaced the unnamed top 6 executive who complained about Liverpool potentially playing kids after clinching the league title. He's ahead of Brighton's chief exec, who is displaying a big-time loser mentality. And he is ahead of the SPFL as an entity for now, but the day is still somewhat young in Scotland, and the SPFL does not like to be at the bottom of the table for Twit of the Day. Nope.
Tafka has posted a couple of clips from Braveheart saying basically the tribes of Scotland will never join together, and from top to bottom this country has no sense of itself. We need the nobles. And then in Mel Gibson Scottish to Murdoch McLennan, men follow courage. If you would just lead them to freedom, they'd follow you, and so would I.
Scotland. I want you to get this sorted out, please.
Oh, and Chris Hutchison posted a picture of him waiting for the Blue Angels Thunderbirds flyover on Saturday, and he is fully covered from nose to sternum.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. I just don't trust anybody, and I also don't want to spread anything that I might have. I have not been sick. I'm not going to lie. Every time that I've had a cough because of allergies, I've gotten a little concerned. I'm not going to lie that every time I had a little flash of a fever or something, because my allergies have been killing me lately. And, you cough a bunch, you have just sinus issues, and you start to feel a little hot, that I'm not taking my temperature on a regular basis. I've absolutely done those things, but I've been lucky. Also, people have felt like that, or felt better than that, and been a carrier of the virus. So I'm not going to take that risk. I'm going to cover my mouth. I'm going to be smart. I'm going to look out for the people around me. I'm also going to, if anybody recognizes me with my mask on and my hat on, that they're going to know that I'm doing what I'm saying. I'm not trying to preach to y'all about doing certain things. I'm just telling you what I'm doing. And if you want to follow it, that's great. If you don't, that's your decision. Please just be careful, all of y'all. Just be careful. We want you guys to be healthy, be safe, continue listening to the show, continue having fun with us, continue getting ready for soccer to come back. And you've got the Korean League back now. We're not going to talk about Nicaragua, Belarus, and was it Tajikistan? That was I think it was Tajikistan
or Uzbekistan. Which one?
One of them was still playing. There are some reasons that are not good for why they are still playing. These countries are governed and set up a little bit differently, and it's not a good thing that they were playing. It was very bad, actually. Mm-hmm. Korea getting back to playing, good thing. Germany creating the protocols, getting back to playing, good thing. Hopefully we will see more, and we'll be able to actually talk about soccer. Now that we're seeing our MLS teams get back on the field, USL teams, NWSL teams getting back soon. We want everybody to be safe and healthy and enjoy all of this with us, because, look, we all need some fun these days, and hopefully talking about the Twit of the Day can be part of some fun for you guys. So yes. Thanks for spending time with us. Sorry for breaking out a soapbox and bashing it over everybody's head, but it happens occasionally. So I'm not sorry for bashing it over Brighton and the unnamed executive and the Sun
unnamed executive,
the SPFL and Kyle Walker. They needed it to be bashed over their heads, metaphorically speaking.
Yes.
So y'all have a good weekend. We're going to do a watch-along Saturday afternoon. 2, 3 o'clock, somewhere in that ballpark. Follow us on social media at Soccer Down Here for an update. It is the 1988 MISL All-Star Game, and John is pointing at a shirt.
The Cleveland Force have made their way onto the show today for those watching on Twitch.
All
part
right.
of your MISL. Figured this would be something of a cross promotion for the watch along.
Yeah, so John's going to be studying the MISL from 1988. I really know little about it. I know some of the teams and some of the players, so I'm going to be flying blind on this one. John will be driving it. We'll watch it. Twitch.tv/soccer down here. And when John loses his connection via Skype or phone or however he's connected, I'll just have to wing it, and then we'll all be in trouble. So
Exactly.
Saturday afternoon, MISL All-Star Game from 1988. We'll keep you posted on the Twit of the Day contest that, God, it seems like it's going to be a thing. The Twit of the Day ranking, the power rankings of Twit of the Day is going to continue.
Yeah.
And we'll keep you posted on any other news that breaks between now and we're back in a normal time on Monday morning. Thanks for hanging out with us. Much plot, y'all.
Much plot to y'all.